Welcome to Spooky History. In today's video we're taking snapshots with William H Mumler and his world of spirit photography. Who hasn't wondered what a ghost would look like? Would they be happy, angry, sad? Is it logically feasible they'd walk, float, wear clothes even? Ghosts. A hologram of the past. A snapshot of memory. And the mere click of a switch, followed by that ever-addictive jangle of coin. What a temptation, what a chance for you to know or even dare to believe, if just for a few precious heart-rending moments, the loved one you miss every day with every fibre of your being was at peace or close by. That you weren't truly alone now, or perhaps just the chance to see them again, one last time. For a few bob. Yes, again, what a temptation. And indeed, Mr. William H Mumler, likewise, what a chance you found. The day you developed the image of what you expected to be an ordinary self-portrait. Photography was your hobby after all, sir, wasn't it? Run-of-the-mill routine. And instead, something spooky happened. A spectral human figure appeared behind William H Mumler, none other than his cousin, by then already 12 years deceased. Despite being a jewellery engraver by trade, Mumler was no fool and knowledgeable enough in his hobby to recognise a double exposure when he saw one. Entrepreneur or snake oil salesman. He once dabbled in some DIY chemistry and tried selling his own elixir, claiming it treated dyspepsia. At a loss of around 620,000 lives, the American Civil War had rendered the United States a fish pond ripe with a seemingly endless supply of juicy mourners, sick with grief and hungry for emotional relief. It is little wonder so many moths flocked to the flame of Mumler's camera once his new reputation spread. And it did spread, quickly. Normal photography? Portraits for $1. People would queue to pay up to $10 for a ghostly image. His new, full-time business of spirit photography exploded, starting in Boston and then after he moved to New York. But Mumler was careful. He would warn paying customers there was no guarantee any spirit would appear, innocently declaring zero responsibility for the whims of departed spirits, or whether they fancied posing with you or not. Wonder of wonders, his wife just so happened to sell her services as a medium at the same time. How handy having such a useful aid at hand to encourage the spirits to drop whatever they were doing and say, cheese. When highly sceptical Boston photographer J.W. Black visited him, even he was left confounded. Prior to taking a portrait photo of Black, Mumler had humbly invited him to examine the glass plate and to dismantle the camera if he desired, though the latter was modestly refused. Invited into Mumler's darkroom, Black observed in disbelief as not only did a cloudy figure materialise behind his own image, but it appeared to be his long-departed father. Black could have accounted for the effect had more than one plate been used, allowing for an obvious double exposure. But having only observed one plate in use, he was at a loss. As were several other renowned photographers who visited Mumler's studio. Not that everyone was impressed. P.T. Barnum, for instance, one of, if not his biggest critic of the time, claimed that Mumler was exploiting and capitalising on the grief of paying mourners by using clever double exposures, even to the extent of actually breaking into customers' homes to steal portraits of deceased kin. Tricky and risky even for a conman, wouldn't you think? Because what do you do if, oops, the transparent ghostly relatives in their really rather expensive photograph happen to still be alive? Because that is exactly what eventually happened, and what got Mumler arrested and put on trial for fraud in April 1869. Not only did P.T. Barnum waste no time in testifying against Mumler, he went one step further, specifically hiring photographer Abraham Bogardus to develop a portrait photo of Barnum with none other than the misty ghost of Abraham Lincoln himself standing behind the man. Despite this, the case against Mumler ultimately remained unproven. Post-acquittal, Mumler returned to Boston, where he would wisely lay low there for a while and stayed safely away from spirit photography. But how ironically fortunate he did not abandon photography altogether. Try and imagine reading your newspapers with not one photograph, none whatsoever, only drawings. Well, the public back then would tell you to stop whining. It's how they read the papers every day. Until the 1870s came, then lo and behold, Mr. Mumler the photographer made an explosive comeback with what is called the Mumler process. His method by which the printing of photoelectrotype plates replaced those of woodcut drawings. It was he who made possible the transfer of photographs to newsprint, a revolutionary turning point in the world of journalism. I mentioned earlier that Mumler did not return to spirit photography following his trial for fraud. There is, however, one final little twist in this tale. Mumler's most famous photograph, and according to him, it was taken February 1872. The woman you see in the image is Mary Todd Lincoln, the late American president's widow. According to the notes of Victorian spiritualist medium William Stainton Moses, the lady visited Mumler under the assumed name of Mrs. Lindell and later required encouragement from Mumler's spiritualist wife to identify the figure in the image as her late husband. It has also been suggested this was the last photograph ever taken of the widow. Considering the source material, however, you might want to add a grain or 10 of salt with that. There is what some may call a compelling, others a blasphemous argument that Mumler's spirit photography was more therapeutic than exploitative. That the mere power of suggestion and ingenious double exposures performed a service by soothing the wounds of grief in a country racked with unprecedented loss of life. Those choices of opinion I'll have to leave up to you. Is such a blatant lie kinder than the truth? Disrespectful to your loved one's memory? Did William H Mumler ever console his conscience with self-assurances of easing people's grief? Or did the joyful jangle of coin echo louder in his skull? We'll never know, because he never confessed to fraud then and, unless you're armed with a camera and feeling optimistic, isn't very likely to confess now. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like, share and comment, and if you have suggestions for future videos, leave them below. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube and like or follow us on most social media. Patreon supporters get extra benefits, including early access to not just spooky history videos, but all videos across our channels at patreon.com/noisyghostents. Thank you for watching and please, do have nightmares. Goodbye.